We do not want to oppress anyone. All we want is our God-given freedom to be human in the land of our birth. I hold to the position of saying I would never be involved in a party political way, and that my involvement stems not from political commitment, but from my Christian faith. For God, you know that all we want is to be recognized for who we are, human beings of infinite worth, created in your image.
The story of Desmond Tutu's rise to leadership begins in a barren black township in the western Transvaal. Born in 1931 to a schoolmaster father and an uneducated mother, Tutu and his family were denied opportunities because of the color of their skin.
I thought, this is how God has organized things, this is how it ought to be.
With the narrow election of the Nationalist Party in 1948, apartheid not only became law, but was the culmination of what the Afrikaner believed was God's will for the country. Under apartheid, 4.5 million whites had full dominion over 23 million blacks. Whites, who constituted only 20% of the population, reserved 87% of the land for themselves and had all the political power. In order to remove black people from areas reserved for whites, the government forcibly evicted many from their homes. Blacks were relegated to the lowest paying jobs and had drastically lower life expectancies than whites. When Desmond was 12, he met Father Trevor Huddleston, who was to become his chief mentor. Huddleston had taken a vow of poverty and had been assigned to this poor black neighborhood of Johannesburg. His work to help black people made Tutu see that things could be different. He preached that apartheid was unchristian.
We are human beings. We are human beings who have feelings. We are human beings who cry when our children die. Our cry is for you to recognize that God has created us as God has created you.
He does profoundly base everything he does on this understanding that by becoming enfleshed, God has given to every human being an infinite dignity. And that theological base is going to bring you into direct conflict with the ideology of apartheid, which denies it, in fact.
Initially, Tutu wanted to become a doctor. However, because his family could not afford the fees, he became a teacher. In 1957, when the government instituted a state-administered system of inferior education for black students, Tutu resigned in protest. He entered the ministry and was ordained a priest in the Anglican Church in 1961. Later that year, he left South Africa with his wife Leah and his growing family to study in England. His time there gave him the confidence to disagree openly. Tutu returned to South Africa in 1967 to teach before returning to England for 3 more years. In 1975, he was appointed Dean of St. Mary's Cathedral in Johannesburg. The South Africa he encountered upon his return was about to explode in violence. And because he was the first black person to hold this position, many looked to him for leadership.
So when I went back to South Africa as Dean of Johannesburg, one just had to be involved to articulate the aspirations of our people, because I'd been given a position that blacks had not had before, a platform, and people began listening, and we didn't have many of our real leaders around, and I was a kind of leader by default.
From 1976 to 1978, he was Bishop of Lesotho, and in 1978 he was appointed General Secretary of the South African Council of Churches, an interdenominational, interracial affiliate of the World Council of Churches. Bishop Tutu gradually turned this organization into a powerful voice of protest against apartheid. Apartheid denied the blacks of South Africa, over 80% of the population, the right to vote. Restricted by law from publicly protesting, increasing numbers of blacks expressed their frustration through violence. Tutu's relationship with those accused of violent acts put him in direct conflict with the government. In 1984, when Tutu stepped down as head of the South African Council of Churches, he was one of the few black leaders who was not in prison. He continued to speak out and did not let himself become discouraged. A major turning point in Desmond Tutu's rise to international prominence was being named the 1984 Nobel Peace Prize recipient.
In honoring me, it is honoring millions of those who are victims of a vicious system.
Upon receiving the award in Oslo, Norway, Tutu gave a speech that forced the world to focus its attention on South Africa. He continued to preach nonviolent resistance.
When will we learn that human beings are of infinite value because they have been created in the image of God? That it is blasphemy to treat them as if they were less than this, and to do so ultimately recoils on those who do this. Perhaps oppression dehumanizes the oppressor as much as, if not more than, the oppressed. They need each other to become totally free, to become human. We can be human only in fellowship, in community, in koinonia, in peace.
But the situation in South Africa was to get worse before it got better. Later in 1984, violence escalated. More blacks were killed. Strikes closed mines and factories, and students boycotted classes. Resentment of rent increases and political oppression precipitated much of the riot. At his installation as Bishop of Johannesburg in 1986, Tutu gave the South African government an ultimatum.
I give notice that even 18 to 24 months from today, February the 3rd, apartheid has not been dismantled or is not being actively dismantled, then for the first time, I will myself call for punitive economic sanctions, whatever the legal consequences may be.
Tutu favored sanctions as the only hope for peaceful change. However, this international campaign placed him in direct opposition to the government. In February 1988, he was arrested, along with other church leaders, but quickly released. In 1989, during the Defiance campaign, he was arrested again. In the United States, Congress did pass some sanctions against South Africa. And as a result of international economic sanctions and domestic social evolution, many apartheid laws were repealed. President Frederick de Klerk in 1991 repealed the remaining laws and called for the drafting of a new constitution. In 1994, South Africa held its first ever free elections, in which people of all races voted. Nelson Mandela, the African National Congress leader who had spent more than 27 years in prison, was elected the country's first black president. Tutu spoke at his inauguration.
Thank you, O God, for freeing our country from racism and oppression and for liberating all of our people.
Desmond Tutu, whose middle name, Mapilo, means life, continues to work for justice in the world. In January of 1996, he was appointed chairperson of the Commission on Truth and Reconciliation. In his book, No Future Without Forgiveness, Tutu argues that true reconciliation cannot be achieved by denying the past. Nor is it easy to reconcile when you cannot forgive the past. Tutu demonstrates how to move forward with honesty and compassion to build a new and more humane world. His work on this commission follows the path of His All Holiness Patriarch Athenagoras, Prophet of Reconciliation, the leader for whom this evening's award is named. For his heroic efforts in the cause against apartheid, Archbishop Desmond Tutu has been honored with numerous awards and honorary degrees. Although retired as Archbishop of Cape Town, he is an active lecturer and is currently a visiting professor at Emory University in Atlanta. Tutu's sermons, speeches, and statements have been collected to remind us of the work that has been accomplished and the work that still must go on.
To work for reconciliation is to want to realize God's dream for humanity, when we will know that we are indeed members of one family, bound together in a delicate network of interdependence.
Oh, King of Kings, King of Kings, we kneel before you, Father, appealing, asking for peace in the rest of the country. Lord of Lords, we kneel before you, Father, appealing, asking for peace in the rest of the country. Our Father, we are asking for peace in the world. Our Father, we are asking for peace in the world. Our Father, we are asking for peace in the world. Our Father, we are asking for peace in the world. Reveal yourself, reveal yourself, reveal yourself, reveal yourself, reveal yourself, reveal from heaven, because we are directing to you, to Almighty. We are directing to